So, as I was saying, uh, BO7 or Warzone or whatever that whole Call of Duty app has had a change. And the change is that they took BO6 off of. Really? Got no views? Because I got one. I don't know. I don't trust fucking. Nothing no more. But now BO6 is entirely its own standalone game. They don't have it by itself in the app. You have to install it separately, which I genuinely think is kind of good. Let me go up in here and check. Bro, it won't even let me open it. There we go. It just opened. Yeah, I know y'all. I'm probably some dumbass kid sitting in this fucking place streaming to YouTube and shit, but genuinely, life sucks sometimes. Like, most recently, my social security number don't match my adopted name no more. It matches my birth name. So now I have to go and fuck with all my bank stuff. I have to fix my fucking my driver's license, or I have to go to the social security office and fix that shit. And this shit didn't even start happening until after I signed up for the army when I was 18, and it just didn't work out. And now my social security number, ever since then, I haven't been able to get a job since I was 18. I'm 20 years old now. I'm 21 come April. And I haven't been able to get a job since then. Well, come to find out, when Twitch told me I was able to start monetizing. I was signing up for it, and I was filling out the W-9 form. Well, when I put my fucking name, the one I go by, the one that my adopted name, and then my social security number, it pretty much said that the information didn't match. So then I tried my birth name, and that shit worked perfectly fine. Tell me why, all my banking information is under my adopted name. It's not under my birth name. If I wanted to open up a new bank account, if I would need to have opened up a new fucking bank account to be able to monetize, right? Guess fucking not, because it'll go to my fucking card if I put the direct deposit account numbers in and the fucking social security number matches, but the name on the card doesn't match. Tell me how that fucking makes sense. But we go here, so you can see, if I go to all games, BO6 is still here, right? But you have to install it separately now. It's its own game, just like Vanguard. Like, for some reason it shows up here, but yeah. Like, Vanguard is its own separate game. Black Ops 5 technically is its own separate game, but if I go here, go on my games and apps, and go to my managed queue, ignore that I'm downloading BO4. I went and tried buying all of the Black Ops games, but also the other fuck ass thing is that Black Ops 3, I went and bought Black Ops 3 from fucking V-Stock at a mall, and it wouldn't work on my console, because the disc was damaged. So when I went back, I have a special edition or something that has the Nuketown bonus map that's included in the zombies. That I don't know if that was included in all of them or just some of them, but I got it. And now when I open the disc, it's not the same fucking edition as what's on the fucking box or the case. So I don't know. I guess that would piss anybody off, but you know, can't expect too much from some places. And then another thing is Black Ops 5, which is technically Cold War. I don't understand why they didn't put Black Ops 5 on there, because technically it's Black Ops 5, or I would assume it would be. Like if I look it up right now, it's guaranteed to say Black Ops 5, right? Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is the fifth game in the Black Ops series. Dropped November 13th, 2020. Developers confirmed that the project was originally developed as Black Ops 5, though the title was ultimately changed to reflect its specific Cold War settings. And it was ass. The game was ass. Say what you will, but I fucking hated Cold War. The only decent thing probably about Cold War was the multiplayer. And even then, it was still ass. The zombies was okay. I want some Infinite Warfare zombies. I loved zombies in Spaceland. Continuation of the Dark Aether story. Black Ops 6 is also the Dark Aether story, but you know. God damn it, it went up to an astronomical fucking time. I am not waiting that long. Let me turn off some of the Wi-Fi services I got on my other devices. Hopefully that made it a little bit faster. Because I'm not trying to wait that long. I don't know about you guys, but I refuse to wait that long on a fucking game. You aren't gonna see me playing any games on this video or stream, probably. Or maybe you will. Just listen to me ramble on about bullshit. Or if you wanted, we could do zombies history right now. For the entirety of the Dark Aether timeline. And that there are several things that tie into the Dark Aether timeline. So we really want to get into it. In the beginning of time, the first people or denizens of the Dark Aether worshipped a monolith of ancient power known as the Construct, and they were indifferent to these beings. The construct occasionally grants a fraction of its power to an individual it deems worthy, known as the Archon. Over time, the Archons were known as elder gods, or no, the elder gods would wage war against each other for the power. The first Archon, it wiped out a parasitic species threatening the Dark Aether. Fourth Archon smashed the moon to pieces, and the fragments of the moon are weaponized, still floating above the Dark Aether. Royal Bloodline just the most powerful of the elder gods who were the clan of royalty. Cordyfax the Deathless was on that royal bloodline and murdered his parents and seized power for himself. And he became the Lord of the Dark Aether. Cordyfax married Syraxis. She was also part of the royal bloodline. Syraxis buried a child against Cordyfax's will, because Cordyfax didn't want a child. He didn't want the child to beat his ass into submission, basically, and he didn't want to lose power, if that makes sense. And then, well, after that child was born, yeah, he feared that the child would one day usurp him. But he subjected that child to an unknown fate. We still don't know what the fuck happened to that kid. And forced Syraxis to become a sister of agony and wiped any and all of her memories from her past. And then she became Syraxis the Shadow. Cordyfax then, I guess, completed all of the trials of the construct in hopes of becoming the Archon, but it rejected him. And he developed a deep obsession with the monolith and prevented anyone else from petitioning it or calling to it or whatever by sending the Sisters of Agony after them. And then we come upon the discovery of humanity, which basically the Dark Aether's opposite was destroyed and all within was banished to the Dark Aether. This includes the mystery box, the Pack-a-Punch machine. They were discovered by the Elder Gods, who learned that there is another world besides theirs, and that's what we know as Earth. Cordyfax orders his general, Nordicus the Conqueror, to study the realm and their inhabitants, the humans for conquest. And then we come to the artifacts. Syraxis and Belikar the Warlock create the artifacts. What are they called? The effigy of a dragon. An effigy of a dragon. They mentally bond with humans. A mask, a sword. So there's an effigy of a dragon, a mask, a sword, and a scepter. And then this is what leads into the Nether Wars. Nordicus and the Night Legions, along with Cordyfax, the ruler of the Dark Aether, start the Nether Wars to, I guess, crush his rivals in the Dark Aether and crush the Dark Aether. The battle, it took place in the wilds of the Dark Aether, where the Hermit clan resided. The battle harmed much of the landscape around it. The Hermit clan pleaded with Cordyfax to spare their lands and end the fighting. In response, Cordyfax cruelly ordered the extermination of the Hermit clan and destroyed the wilds of the Dark Aether. And without him knowing, the Hermit clan had a connection to a mysterious web of life, and some people call it that, which allowed each member to pass on their knowledge and power to each other. So one hermit survives, accumulating the power of her now extinct peoples. She would be forever known as Vercana the Last, and the wild lands of the Dark Aether are now known as the Corrupted Lands. Now we go into the meeting of the Birthstone. Belikar meets Vercana at the latter's birthstone to discuss a plot to defeat Cordyfax. This marks the beginning of a resistance against Cordyfax. Basically, the clans of the Dark Aether rise up against Cortifax, defeating the Night Legions for the first time. Cortifax punishes a commander of the Night Legion, known as the Decimator, by trapping him in his own shield for eternity and throwing it into the corrupted lands to be forgotten. This leads us to the Battle of Obsidian Ridge. God, I am not waiting that long for this dumbass game. But the Battle of Obsidian Ridge. Oh yeah, appreciate it, Deuce. The Battle of Obsidian Ridge occurs. This is basically Invictus. This is where Invictor flees and defects to the Resistance from Cortifax's Night Legions. And this is where we get the betrayal of Nordicus as well, who is plagued by guilt and remorse for his actions, and he also defects to the Resistance. So there's two of Cortifax's men right there who have now defected to the Resistance that's against Cortifax. The Nether Wars at that point pretty much ends. The Resistance traps Cortifax in his scepter and strips him of his title as Lord of the Dark Aether. Syraxis, Belikar, Nordicus, and Invictor become trapped in the, I forget what they're called, the Sentinel artifacts, the Central artifacts. So many different names, but they're artifacts. Yeah. And then this is when like it cuts, like the history is cut until the Middle Ages. And this is when the Society of the Occult is formed by individuals in contact with the various entities of the Dark Aether, including Nordicus and Cortifax. And these members become some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in all of Europe. They go on to write the Tome of Rituals, a spellbook of Dark Aether rune magic. Around year 750, construction of the Abbey of the Forgotten is kind of like it's finished or being constructed at this point, and it serves as a leprosarium for a leper colony, with those afflicted by the horrific disease being cared for by a Benedictine monastic order. Year 1092, birth of Adelaide of Maurienne, the future Queen of France. 1100s, the Syndicate is founded by Guy de Saint Michael. Sometime before 1137, the lepers revolt and takes place in the Abbey of the Forgotten. Adelaide of Maurienne orders the construction of a keep on the site of the Abbey. As an homage to her late husband and king, a village begins to form at its base. Around 1220, the construction of the keep on the site of the Abbey, now a fortress, is finished. Around the 1300s, Guy de Saint Michael and his four enforcers occupy the fortress, and they institute a criminal reign of terror. Guy de Saint Michael creates 4 bastard swords and their respective secret upgrades for his 4 bastard sons, hoping that they would fight each other to obtain the Obscurus Altilium after his death. And he would also create a giant or a stone golem named the Guardian, who would protect the Obscurus Altilium. Well, he basically passes away, and not one of his sons would ever attempt to get a bastard sword, much less the Obscurus Altilium. Around 1314, another guy named Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Knights of Templar, is burned at the stake for heresy in Paris. After that, around 1533, Avalon is declared a free state by the Papal Order, and the entire principality is granted to a powerful family now known as the French Syndicate. All right, now we come around 1591. This is around Takeo's time, Takeo Masaki. He was a Ronin in feudal Japan, and he gets transported into the dark ether through unknown means. And yeah, we'll get there. And then around 1770, Josiah Shem and his cult, they arrive in Appalachia near the town of Liberty Falls. You guys know this is where Dempsey grew up. I'm pretty sure this is where Dempsey grew up. Or it was around where he grew up. But once they're there, they meet a tribe and steal their lands and their possessions. The tribe who had built the Serpent Mound, basically it's a shrine with the statue of an aether worm at its center, and they use it as a talisman. They use a talisman, an antler carving containing Ethereum, and it's known as the Horned Key, and they use it to commune with their god of death in the dark ether. This is when we come into the 1800s. Archibald Fotherington Smythe was born, Alastair Rhodes is born, Stanton Shaw is born, and Fats Malloy is born. Around 1810, Shem and his followers perform a final ritual, and they call upon Cortifex to grant them immortality. However, the ritual broke space-time, and Shem's cult vanished. Shem's spirit was transported into a liminal space inside the mansion, where he was trapped in a loop, constantly searching for the Horned Key. Around 1820, Ashwood is built, and then like 45 years later, I'm pretty sure on the timeline it says 1865, Ashwood is then it arrives in the dark ether. It arrives in the dark ether. 20 years after that, Scarlet Rhodes is born, and Alastair meets Archibald Fotherington Smythe at a dig site in Tanis, and they form a friendship, right? 1894, November 8th, Gabriel Kraft is born. I don't know if any of you know what these names mean, but we'll get there at some point. In 1904, just 20 years after he is born, Gabriel Kraft attends a reading of Francis Barrett's The Magus by Alastair Rhodes in Ghent, Belgium, and becomes inspired by all things occult. And then just 4 years after that, Archibald Fotherington Smythe is invited to Alastair Rhodes' house and instructs him with a mission. And that mission is to travel to a burial mound in Avalon in order to find an artifact known as a Sentinel artifact. All right, I had it right the first time when I said Sentinel artifact. Well, Archibald arrives at the burial mound alongside with his crew. Pretty sure this included a valet. I'm not entirely sure. This is on my notes app, by the way. This is just what I've gathered from playing games. And they discover an underground cave system and several indications of a previous civilization. They eventually find a door to nowhere, a portal that leads to a dark ether nexus. And Archibald had found the Sentinel artifact there, but it was out of reach for him. And for the remainder of the time the remainder of the month, he tried to find ways to get the Sentinel artifact, and he even crafted an ice staff and didn't get it at all. And then he was killed by a shock mimic while trying to get the Sentinel artifact, and I think the shock mimic was it was in the shape of some kind of like little boat thing, but it killed him, right? 10 years later, 1918, Oscar Strauss is born in Germany. All of these names, again, they become important along the lines at some point in time. Well, Oscar Strauss is born in Germany in 1918, and then in the 1920s, the Society of the Occult has a crisis that occurs, and their leadership splits the pages of the tome of Dark Aether runes. They split the tome of the Dark Aether runes and spread them across the globe. Around this, also in 1920, Van Dorn Farm is built. Van Dorn Farm is on the map Ashes of the Damned, and after you leave Janus Towers is the starting room of the Ashes of the Damned map. And there are several little towns. There's Ashwood, there's Van Dorn Farm, there's Blackwater Lake, Exit 115, and then the Zoria Cosmodrome. And then 1923, Fats Malloy is he's shot by federal agents while he's attending a party at the mansion. The mansion is owned, I believe, by take a pause on that. My girl is my bad, guys. For the two of you watching. All right, baby, I'll see you when you get here. That's why I keep my phone on. But Fats is killed at a party at Alistair's mansion, Alistair Rhodes. He's like for a little while, he's the main guy in the Dark Aether story, like the main character, and his daughter Scarlet, I believe is her name, is also one of the main characters. But after he dies, his spirit is transported into a liminal space inside Alistair's mansion, where he's been trapped in a loop looking for the hip flask. These are all parts of the Easter egg for various parts of the Dark Aether story timeline. About 9 years later, I believe 1932, a mining accident killed dozens of coal miners, and this is on Terminus Island. And after this incident, Terminus Island mining operations ceased. They stopped, and the island was abandoned. In 1936, I'm pretty sure on November 10th is when it says on the official timeline, Gregory Weaver is born, and this is he's born. And then 1939, September 1st, everybody knows this. This is historical. World War II begins. And then later in that time of September, the Wahrheit leader, Wolfram von List, travels to the University of Leipzig to inform Professor Gabriel Kraft. See, now it's all coming together. The name Gabriel Kraft. Remember how I told you he was born earlier? To inform the Professor Gabriel Kraft that he will be assisting Mr. von List as his advisor. And after Gabriel refused, he was arrested by von List, and von List murdered his assistant Franz, or I don't know. And then he's brought into an SS prison, the secret Stasi or whatever, and other archaeologists were tasked with discovering antiquities that would prove the existence of the Aryan race, right? So the Nazis in World War II the perfect Aryan race. We all know that history. Perfect God, the perfect human is blonde haired and blue eyed. Please don't take this out of context. I'm just providing a history lesson. Please don't kill me. And then just 1 year after that, William Peck is born. He's another character along the timeline. And then Blackwater Lake Cabin, the Blackwater Lake Cabin is built. And then in 1942, the Terminus Islands becomes a U.S. naval base. August 23rd of 1942, the Battle of Stalingrad begins. November 18th, the Soviets, like the USSR, they begin Operation Uranus. And they encircle the Germans' 6th Army, and von List leads the SS rescue mission to resupply the 6th Army and ends the siege of Operation Uranus. Fuck that word. In 1943, on January 31st, General Friedrich Paulus surrenders to the Soviets, and this affects von List deeply. He did not like this at all, whatsoever. I need to change the position of my camera because I keep looking over here. And the reason I keep looking over here is because, oh god damn it, I dropped him. Because Master Chief is so goddamn fucking cool. I don't know if you guys think Halo figurines are cool, but I got these when I was young. Sorry, ADHD moment. Shouldn't have, but yeah, fuck, where was I at? Oh, August 3rd. Project End Station is founded, and try to get a little background on End Station. It's part of Viren under the authorization of Kurt Diebner, he's a doctor, and Ulrich Vogel. As we know, Ulrich Vogel in this Dark Aether timeline, I'm pretty sure, is Richtofen, one of Richtofen's partners. They're assigned to this project, they're assigned to this project as the leaders of this project, and tasked with the creating a particle accelerator known as a cyclotron. And they do the construction of this begins at Morisako, and Morisako is in Poland, and I believe at this time in history, Germany occupies Poland. 1944, March 7th, Ulrich Vogel, and Lucas Kurtz, they performed the 12th test of the cyclotron, and during the test, the cyclotron, it basically malfunctions, and it breaches the dimensional membrane between our worlds, Earth, and the Dark Aether. And Dark Aether creatures begin coming through that rift and cause an outbreak. The outbreak, it's contained at some point, but the cyclotron, it continues to run without external power after this. Their on thing, that's what it's called, the breaching, when the dimensional membrane, it was breached, and the Sentinel artifacts are activated now, and they are in the possession of Die Vorite. And through the scepter of Cortifacts, Von Lists bonds with Cortifacts, and gains his ability to raise the dead. So this is now where we're kind of coming in with the zombies. So we already knew it was a zombies timeline, but with the scepter of Cortifacts, Von List can raise the dead now, and he travels with the Varhites and crafts, I believe, Gabriel crafts, and Von List then raises the bodies of the dead at the battleground of Stalingrad, and he raises them as revenants. If you don't know what a revenant is, I will go and look up the technical term of it. A revenant is a mythological or folkloric being that returns from the dead to terrorize or interact with the living. The term comes from the French word revenir, meaning meaning to return. Historically, the concept spans 2 centuries of European folklore, and this resulting in practices like revenant graves meant to prevent corpses from rising. Yeah, that sounds fun, right? Nah, fuck no. If I saw something living dead coming after me, I wouldn't even stop to get a look at it. I'd probably just fucking run. But he raises them as revenants, and then Gabriel Kraft seals himself in his room, which is, I think, near Von List's office. I don't know. I didn't write that much in my notes app. I'm just doing this off of memory. And he has the Tome of Rituals and sends a distress signal to our special forces, the Allies. And they arrive soon after, and they become trapped by Cortifacts through a containment spell. And then they bond with the other artifacts in Devarite's possession. Belikar sends a message calling for help to the Dark Aether, one message eventually being intercepted by Verkana. Jesus Christ. Verkana creates her own artifact and teleports the special forces along with the Decimator shield to Egypt. So now Special Forces is in Egypt. And then on March 9th of the same year, again, that's 1944, Vogel writes his 203rd entry in his diary, and he chronicles the incident 2 days prior and its aftermath. He reveals that Berlin has taken an interest in this rift. What was it called? The rift was called Der Anfang. And he reveals that Berlin has taken an interest in this rift, ordering the N-Station. N-Station is the company that they gave the fucking particle collider to, or whatever. And basically, they're supposed to study the rift further. Their own thing. After this, just 3 days later, I think March 12th. I haven't even fucking put dates in my fucking notes app. But Ulrich Vogel, he records a report that details this incident, suspecting the rift opened a rift through space-time. Radiation from the rift has then it spilled out of the rift, and it infected a lot of N-Station's men, and they have an illness, and Vogel describes the illness as as living death. I believe 4 days later, on March 16th, N-Station discovers the element responsible for the illness, and they call it Exo-Element 1. Ulrich Vogel expresses his desire to weaponize the necrotization process to create an army of unkillable soldiers. God, that's... Jeez. April 3rd of that year, it's like a month later or so, the construction of a I hate English. The decontamination chamber, named there Veschler, is completed, and it removes Exo-Element 1 from brains of necrotized soldiers and restores higher brain function.
Wait, does it work?
I haven't even gotten Black Ops 4 installed yet. Yeah, so I have this, and then Black Ops 6 is also installing. So after Black Ops 4 is installed, I'll stick it in and tell you if it works or not. I'm still very deeply pissed at that.
Yeah.
They need to test their stuff before they sell it.
Try being known as also the guy that shot Lee Renata.
On June 6th, the U.S. forces land in Normandy on Normandy Beach. August 22nd that year, Normandy. After losing Normandy, Adolf Hitler orders N Station to weaponize their findings. November 15th of that year, they had constructed a lab under Berlin, and Kurtz develops an exo-element 1 harvester and lure to summon and harvest the essence of Tempest. Which is Tempest, they're also called floaters or Avogadro. They appear in Cold War. They're from the Dark Aether. They're affiliated with the Forsaken. They are special types. They use aether energy projectiles, and they're weak to brain rot. They're on the Dark Aether side saga, but they are called Tempests. So that's who that's what they're trying to lure and harvest the essence of. November 16th, Ulrich Vogel, he develops an exo-element 1 conversion machine, and this is pretty much capable of harvesting the essence of Dark Aether entities, and uses it to open a portal to the Dark Aether. December 14th, the Reichstag approves a proposal by Vogel to send a Nazi army into the Dark Aether, only for it to be unleashed later in case of Germany's defeat. This is named Operation Balder. Terra Maledicta, this is an event. It's the special forces arrive at the Varheights outpost in the eastern desert and discover the trapped Decimator's shield. With Rakenna's help, they free the Decimator, who pledges himself to their cause. And they then travel to the corrupted lands of the Dark Aether. They free a trapped page of the Tome of Rituals and use the Decimator shield to set up a beachhead against Cortifax. Terra Maledicta is a Call of Duty Zombies map, for you who don't know. And then we come into Shino Numa. And this is another map. They recover the Tome page. This is the Special Forces. They then travel back to the Varheights outpost at Okinawa, and they are tasked with restoring Syraxis' memories. After summoning and battling an echo of her, as well as reassembling the relic mirror, her memories are fully restored, and Gabriel Kraft's plan at this point in time is nearing to completion, because he plans to separate Von List from Cortifax using the Tome page and the mirror. And then we come into the situation on the timeline titled the Archon. I believe that is another map. Cortifax uses a spell to split the pieces of the Pack-a-Punch machine, with the side effect of killing most of Varheight's personal special forces, or its personnel. I don't know why I didn't put a period between those two in my notes, but Special Forces then arrives. They restore the Pack-a-Punch, and then using the relic mirror to separate Cortifax from Von List. Cortifax is now freed from his imprisonment, and he petitions the construct once again to become its Archon. Remember, as an Archon, he gets a little bit of the power from the construct or the monolith, depending on what you have come to know it as. Well, the construct demands that Cortifax abides by its rules and allow the Special Forces to complete its trials of sacrifice. mindfulness, and resilience. In the meantime, Von List teleports to Gabriel Kraft's room and agrees to help Kraft while at gunpoint. After the trials are completed, Gabriel Kraft demands to know where his spouse is, and Von List reveals that they had been dead for months. So now Gabriel is angry and he shoots and kills Von List. After that, the special forces traverse the Dark Aether and battle Cortifax, who is now become the Archon of the Dark Aether. They defeat and kill Cortifax, and his corpse is claimed by the bottomless depths of the Dark Aether. I don't know why I wrote that into my notes out. Now, under the orders of Von List, the Wunderwaffe DG-2 is created by Ulrich Vogel, which is based on work previously done by Oscar Strauss. Remember, I said when Oscar Strauss was born. 1945, January 26th, I believe, after the arrival of Gruppenführer Muller and Task Force Balder, Vogel writes a letter to a future in-station scientist detailing instructions of how to open a portal to the Dark Aether. Not a day later, but let me get a drink real quick. There's a lot of information to unpack on you guys. I've been speaking for about 46 minutes. God, what was that? January 27th. Vogel orders the personnel to evacuate Morasko, Poland. And then he tasks Kurtz with taking care of his daughter, Angelica. So Angelica Vogel is now under the care of, I forgot his first name, but Kurtz, Dr. Kurtz. Task Force Balder then enters the Dark Aether, and they overload the cyclotron and the infestation area. They infest the area with Exo-Element 1, and Vogel stays behind to ensure Balder's arrival. January 29th, 2 days later, Dr. Vogel, he records a report that confirms that Balder has entered the Dark Aether, and now, without him knowing, they became corrupted by the Dark Aether's influence and became zombies. On February 3rd, the 8th Guards Army of Soviet Russia arrived in Morasko. Discovering the end-station facility, they film their entry into the facility, and they are attacked by zombies. February 10th, the cleaning crew, led by NVKD officer Lazarev, make their way into the in-station facility. Sergeant Zykov, I don't know why I didn't put any of their fucking first names in here, is ordered by Lazarev to enter and shut down the cyclotron. And then after doing this, Zykov becomes trapped within the Dark Aether. Over time, he consumes the creatures around him, changing him into an elder god. After this, he goes by a name, and this name is the Forsaken. This is in reference to his abandonment in the Dark Aether. Whew, I need to stop smoking. February 19th, Gabriel Kraft records a personal log where he states that he intends to stay away from the occult for good now, as it resulted in the loss of his wife and companion, Sasha. Pretty sure this is his wife. On February 21st, Kurtz and Angelica, remember Angelica is Vogel's daughter, are captured by Soviets, and Lazarev interrogates Kurtz. And this is for the remaining locations of the in-station scientists. Kurtz and Angelica are then allowed to leave to live in the Soviet Union. Kurtz changes his name to Ivan Valentine. and Angelica is renamed Alexandra Valentina. And since she's so young, she hears the voice of the Forsaken disguising himself as her father, Ulrich Vogel. In an alternate universe, where the Nazis won the war, Dr. Richtofen, a scientist and a hero in his timeline, a hero of the Reich, he's transported into the dark ether. And then 1947, the Cold War begins. Hugo Yeager is born. Blackwater Lake Cabin arrives in the dark ether. Exit 115 is created. Sergei Ravenov is born. These are just, I'm going. And then 1954, collapse of the dark ether universe at the end of Tag der Toten. Richtofen appears in Berlin, Germany. With most of his memories being lost due to the passage of one universe into another, Richtofen is admitted to a local orphanage. This is a young Richtofen. It's not old Richtofen, the hero of the Reich. And then we go into 1955, Vietnam War begins, and then Richtofen just a year later, little bitty baby Richtofen is adopted by Kraft. Valentina, remember Ulrich Vogel's daughter, is accepted into the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology, and Kurtz burns the letter after Valentina tells him that she had been tasked with her father to continue his work. And then Valentina, remember Ulrich Vogel's daughter, murders Kurtz and by poisoning his tea, condemning him for abandoning her father's plan. The Soviet authorities falsely conclude that he died of a heart attack. This is also around the time when the Zarya Cosmodrome is finishing its construction. And then before the beginning of 1965, Terminus Island is left in a state of abandonment after World War II. The CIA then converts Terminus Island into a top-secret outpost used for detention of enemies of the state. Not the communist state, the American state. 1968, Dempsey is fighting in the jungles of Vietnam when he is suddenly transported into the dark ether. The Zarya Cosmodrome arrives in the dark ether on the same year. In 1969, the Operation Apache Snow begins, and Mackenzie Carver plays a role with his time in Vietnam, leaving a long-lasting psychological effect on him that he refers to as the stick. In 1970, Valentina, remember Ulrich Vogel's daughter, is recruited into the KGB. In 1972, James Tobias Fletcher is born. Samantha Maxis graduates from Heidelberg University with a bachelor's degree in applied mathematics and a minor in linguistics in 1973. And just a year later, she is recruited into the BND. Not sure what this stands for. I just wrote it down. Also in the same year as she is recruited into the BND, Sam Colton is murdered by a widow of one of his employees, and his spirit is transported into a liminal space inside of the mansion. Remember, the mansion it's either Monty's mansion. I don't know if it's Monty's or if it's God, what is his name? That rich white guy whose daughter's name is Scarlett. And then he's trapped in a liminal space, and he's searching for an inspection report. And then in 1975, Richtofen enlists into the Air Force, participates in Vietnam, and he is known as Blue Baron. Then Richtofen meets a CIA operative during Vietnam named Kruger, with whom he becomes close friends. Kruger offers Richtofen a position within the Directorate of Operations. Kruger starts dealing in a secretive illegal operations with the French syndicate, funneling weapons to them and covering their human trafficking operation while pocketing the funds to himself. Married, Kruger's secretary meets Richtofen and the two fall in love and eventually marry. On April 30th, the Vietnam War comes to an end. August 30th, Omega Group is founded by the KGB chairman Yuri Andropov to identify, study, and weaponize psychotronic phenomena, comprised of specialists from Spetsgruppe Alpha, Wimpel, and Smerch. Their clandestine activities remain secretive to the population at large. June 29, East Germany hosts a multilateral conference for European communist parties. Some kind of mind-reading Omega asset. Learns several representatives from Soviet satellite states were uniting to extract concessions from the Kremlin. Omega units quietly rounded up these diplomats, families, and their home country in their home countries, ending the insurrection before it starts. 1978, Jimmy Carter, the president, suspends production of the neutron bomb. Omega asset, a clairvoyant Omega asset helps the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan assassinate Mohammed Daoud Khan, and the asset experiences a mental breakdown and is liquidated after attempting to defect at the British consulate in Kabul. Valentina, Ulrich Vogel's daughter, is transferred to Omega. Then we come into 1979. The Iranian Revolution begins, and the Central Intelligence Agency and BND cooperate to ensure that the Shah's safe extraction. The Shah is safely extracted. They leave many of their people behind, and Samantha Maxis is saved thanks to Gregory Weaver, who personally interfered by going off the books to rescue her, and then they become really close friends. Tammy Lundberg, she's a student working on her PhD thesis, records herself going through the history of Sam Colton Hall, denoting the various owners and incidents that happened within this building. Gosh. She then reports her findings in 1980 within the subterranean excavations between Sam Colton Hall, where she states the presence of past realistic ceremonies and erroneous energy signals. Also at this time, Exit 115 is fully built. The construction is concluded, finished. Richtofen and Mary have a child, and they name him Samuel. This is all the stuff that happens in 1981. The Richtofens relocate from the USA back to Germany. Mary Richtofen is also Kruger's his assistant. And she is then made aware of his illegal dealings and begins gathering evidence against him, and her husband is kept out of the loop. Mary seeks whistleblower protectors before coming forward with her evidence and comes into contact with Samantha Maxis, who is assigned the case They began working to relocate Mary and her family to a secure safe house in Saxony. Kruger catches up to what Mary is planning and begins devising a plan to have her silenced, using his influence within the CIA. He covertly orders Samantha Maxis to relocate Mary to a different safe house along with Mary's son Samuel. And then the order further says that Samantha cannot contact with either her own department or nor the CIA about this change. Weaver works for the CIA, receives a message securing assassination orders by someone posing as Samantha Maxis about a target in Bremen. He is told to complete the hit and then burn the house where the target is to dispose of any evidence, while assuring Weaver that the wife and child of the target are outside of the premises and to not search the premises for additional intel. He then proceeds with these orders. Finish out this March 30th, Omega are involved in a failed assassination attempt against President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. And then they fail again in the assassination attempt against Pope John Paul II. And then they finally don't fail to assassinate somebody, and that is the Egyptian president Anwar Sadat. And then Weaver travels to Bremen to kill the Richtophens, burns the house, and leaves the location. He killed all of them. Well, Mary and Samuel. He burned them both alive. And then Edward Richthofen manages to survive the assassination attempt. And he's contacted by Kruger, who insists on putting the blame on Weaver, fueling Richthofen's drive for revenge and hatred towards him. With that, we will be ending this part of the video. Just Jesus. That's a lot of things to be talking about. Follow for part 2. Or don't. Just look for it.